Hi everyone, this is the review retro for Sprint 149 and the planning for Sprint 150 of SugarLearning project. This was a 1-week sprint. The goal was to set up the Azure China deployment pipelines for SSW identity. The work was not completed, though there was significant work done. Attendees are as listed. Overall, there were 140 hours billed for the project from Baba, Azair, Tino, Charles, Jim, and myself. In terms of the work conducted, we set up the end files as build artifacts for the SSW identity deployments. A refactor of the workflow for deploying the China branch was done to combine the CI/CD, the infrastructure and the CI/CD workflows. And as discussed, the China deployment pipeline was not completed. Other work that was done, we've set up alerts in SugarLearning China for when people join SugarLearning. We have fixed a bug with the navbar layout on mobile devices. We investigated and resolved a type error arising from a user profile component that we were seeing in the logs. And Charles completed 2 sets of EF Core tests in support of the EF Core migration. We also had the monitoring task, other work that was some stuff was done with, work on the archive issue with reordering archived items, investigating the server date time usage, and resolving warnings in Octopus deployment. Do you have any questions with the work done, Adam?
No, that's good.
In terms of the backlog, there were 5 commits, 72% burn down. There was a bit of the shape of the burn down graph is a bit unusual in this case. You'll see that there was an uptick in the capacity. That was when Charles joined us. And then there was a sudden large number of completions, as in the last 24 hours, we've had a number of items that have been merged or deployed. In terms of code coverage, it remains constant at 24%. We had 2 deployments over the course of the sprint. We have seen a decrease in failed requests this week from 664 to 589. But we have also seen a decrease in total unique users from 117 to 101, and a decrease in authenticated users from 64 to 61. In terms of the epics, we have had the ChinaFi epic decrease from 77 to 72%. And the cause of that is that we've had 3 additional PBIs added, arising from the meeting last Tuesday afternoon, as well as an issue that we identified during the sprint where the SugarLearning China server currently cannot generate thumbnails as part of the image upload because it is using the system.drawing library, which is only available on Windows. Because the SugarLearning China was using Linux, we now need to switch that back to Windows in order to have that library.
Why don't we convert the code?
To use a different library, which would also incidentally support WebP.
Yep.
We have a separate PBI for that.
Right.
What I'm doing is prioritizing the removal of the old ChinaFi branch.
Right. Okay.
In terms of the EF Core migration, that has increased from 34 to 40%.
Okay.
In terms of experimental work, we have the EF Core migration work. progressed. In terms of what went well, team was happy that Charles is back. He joins the team and smashes through 2 PBIs, 2 decent-sized PBIs, so everyone was very impressed. Charles was also impressed with the work done for the infrastructure and the CI/CD workflows for SSW identity. And Ozair pointed out that BOA has done a good job with investigating anomalies in the China production.
Right.
In terms of what didn't go so well, Tino notified that we went backwards, noticed that we went backwards on the Chinafy epic. So we now have I'd say it's more that we have a more accurate view of the work that is required. In terms of improvements for the next sprint, I've pointed out we need more deployments. Adam, do you have any questions before we move on to the forecast?
Well, 2 deployments is okay. More is always better, but that's okay. Do you think it's better to try to fix that code to get rid of the drawing library rather than deploy to Windows and then have to deploy to another environment later?
No, I don't believe so. The change to Windows is a configuration change and should be relatively straightforward. I'm more concerned that we end up with a situation where the conversion of the drawing library drags on, especially considering that there's a number of issues that people keep raising with regards to the use of WebP format, and that as a result, the migration to the removal of the Chinafy branch is delayed.
Fair enough.
Changing across to the sprint forecast for 150.
Okay.
The sprint goal is to commence testing on SugarLearning China. This is a 1-week sprint with the review to be conducted on the 2nd of July. Attendees is listed. Work to be done. Firstly, complete the deployment of SSW identity. We will continue with the current momentum that we have for resolving issues with archiving and with resolving warnings in Octopus Deploy. We have 4 bugs that we've identified over the course of this sprint. One being users redirected to broken egg instead of a forbidden page. And we have several timeout exceptions that require investigation. We've also seen an issue where Google search is displaying the wrong item, the wrong icon for SugarLearning. So
Yep.
This is a spike to investigate what the cause of that is. Beyond those defects, we have further Chinafy work, which includes the switch app service and plan back to Windows. Investigate or finalize the investigation into why the application insights for the old SugarLearning China was not in use, and to commence the actual testing for SugarLearning China, or to conduct the testing, I should say. We have a couple of rules to draft: the deployment rolling forwards, not backwards, and the rule, do you understand the risks of deploying on Fridays? There's also been a feature request for displaying the user edit sizes for the user edit report. That is the work that we have planned, Adam. Do you have any questions?
I guess the only one is from last week. If you remember, the China team deployed stuff on identity, which clobbered what we were doing. Could that happen again? Like, would they do anything different? They've done some work on identity. They want it deployed so they can continue working. What would they do differently so that we wouldn't have the same outcome?
Go ahead, Ozair.
All right. So, Adam, we do have document which explaining how we can go for the deployment from staging to the production, which actually gives us a checklist. And that checklist actually includes all the scenarios where we can have a failed deployment on the production. Before going to that, we will be filling up the checklist and checking up all the linked products we have. Checking their authentication and if they are working fine, and then we will be going for the production. And in the last, we will also be asking the product POs to test their application on their side, like the PO for the SugarLearning or the rewards or for Time Pro.
Right. Okay. And is that a document
Yes.
in SSW identity?
Yes, that is correct. We do have a new category called deployment, and that deployment contains a document, and it's been actually checked by Goldie as well.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I'm really impressed. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, that's good. All right, great. I'm happy with all that.
Gentlemen, I'll be uploading the summary here. See you all next week.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Bye.